Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, babies in their diapers, welcome to the Tiberius Show with your host, Tiberius Boy.
That's me, Tiberius.
Welcome to the Tiberius Show today, and I'm your host, Tiberius Boy. And as always, we're looking at various jobs and how they affect the world around us. Today's class is going to be very interesting. We're going to talk to an inspirational speaker with a background in character education. Do you have any idea what character education is? Well, neither do I. So let's find out. Let me introduce our next guest, the one, the only, the amazing Heather Wilde.
Hello. Thanks for having me on the show.
Well, thank you for being on the show. Okay,
Fabulous.
So,
All right.
Okay, so you're listed as a speaker with a background in character education. Can you explain to my listeners exactly what is character education?
Sure. It isn't super common, but basically, it's a program for teachers that actually believe that it's part of their responsibility to tell students why they should be a good human. Did you ever think that maybe your teacher wanted to be a mentor for you in ways other than just talking about math and science and English and all that, or why we should read? And so I really was passionate about being able to tell kids, like, why is it good to be a good human? Like, why should we do it? And so that actually is what I got my master's in.
So what sparked your interest in character education?
You want to know what it was, Tiberius? There were so many students coming into my classrooms that didn't really understand why they should be good people. Like, it wasn't common knowledge. It wasn't something that they were learning at home, and it wasn't something they were learning in their wherever they were. And so it was confusing when a student didn't understand why, to be courageous was a good thing, or to be honest was a good thing. I mean, I didn't get it. And so I wanted to help students understand how they can become stronger, better humans.
Okay. Now, I know that you have worked as an English teacher for both middle school and high school students. Well, which are easier to work with?
You know what? My favorite schools are when I could do both, because the middle schoolers have so much energy and you usually need a nap after you teach them, right? But then you go to the high schoolers and they're more calm, but sometimes that means they're kind of lethargic. They don't really talk very much. And so really my perfect jobs have been in smaller towns where I could teach both, because everybody's got their value.
Now, you speak to kids about trauma, validating their experiences and encouraging them to be the best version of themselves. Well, how did you get the idea to talk about these varied subjects?
You know what? I believe that when kids come into our classrooms, we're there to teach them. And if there are other things that stand in the way from their ability to hear and listen, because things happen outside in their, in life, that comes right into the classroom. And so as I had students that came in and they would be distracted, or they'd be upset, or they'd be sad, or they'd be angry. And I realized that students, they had to figure out a way to process those things so they could be healthier, so they could learn. And so I personally have gone through a lot of trauma myself too. And so it was easy for me to say, well, here's what I did. But I'm all about, we can't be good learners if we were worried about things that are really big outside of the school classroom. So that's why I decided that it was something that was important to me.
Okay. So when did you see that there was a need for these types of programs?
I have seen this right from the beginning as a teacher, right? Everybody knows there's a whole bunch of personalities that come into a classroom. You got the noisy kids, you got the angry kids, you got the kids that talk too much, you've got the people that are too happy, and we all come together into this melting pot where we're supposed to learn. And all it takes is a couple of people to be bringing things in that can disrupt everybody. So I knew right away, as a teacher, it seemed like those problems had to get addressed soon. And so as I got more specific with teaching, I just started realizing I had some good knowledge and some good life experiences to do this.
Mm-hmm. So what's the best part about being a speaker and talking with students all over America?
Well, the best thing about being a speaker is knowing that there are people who are receiving and needing the message, and they oftentimes reach out or connect and say, that meant so much, that helped me to get through something I was struggling with. And so it's very empowering for me, and it's empowering to pass on to students, which are just humans. It's just humans. I just really am passionate about middle and high schoolers, right? Like, everybody should try and be a healthier person. But I love talking to students and seeing them go, oh, like that's a cool moment.
Okay. Well, now my dad is a computer guy and heard about you. He was excited to hear your thoughts about technology with kids. Now, I love technology as well and was not excited. You're not going to tell me to turn off my cell phone and computer, are you?
If I told you to turn off your computer, we wouldn't be talking, right? So I can't give that advice because you have a really cool thing going on. So no, technology is a good thing when used appropriately.
Well, do you think kids are addicted to technology?
I think some kids are, yes. I do believe and you know why I say that? It's not because of what I see with how much time kids are spending on technology. It's what they feel and express when they can't have it. Like if you're a teacher and the teacher like takes away the phone, or the parents take away rights to doing it, I think that when people have violent responses to having their phone taken away because they don't know what to do with themselves, I think that's when we're starting to say, is there an addiction going on? So there's kids that have addictions, and then I think there's kiddos that would not be happy if their parents took their phones away, but I think that they could survive, right? So, but I think there's lots and lots of unhealthy usage of technology for sure.
Yeah, me personally, I think I'm smack dab in the middle between those two options, but who knows?
Okay,
Probably
so what would
addicted.
you do? What would you do if I took away your phone? What would be your dad? Let's say your dad took away your phone. What would be your response?
I mean, I would get a little bit frustrated, but over time, I would get over it, and it would turn into a normal routine.
Okay. So do you think your first reaction out of the gun, though, if he took it from you, would you be pretty upset?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? I think people that are truly addicted, I've seen people that actually were willing to pass on physical aggression as kids because a teacher took their phone. I mean, if you're willing to go to punches because someone took your phone away, like that's a serious problem. And then they don't know what to do, right?
Well, yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely.
Well, what are the largest benefits that you see with students in technology usage?
I think there are a lot of benefits. One thing that I love that I've seen since I've been a teacher over the last few decades is that students are more willing to find answers because they know the answers are out there. You know, in the old days, we'd have to go to the library and like look up things in a card catalog and you know, data and facts. You had to really want to investigate more. And now, if I asked you a question about something about the moon, and you know, we have 2 supermoons this month, and if you didn't know the answer, you probably wouldn't look at me and go, I don't know. You'd probably say, well, let's Google it. Right. And so I think I think some kids they're curious, and it allows them to get information. They don't shut down as fast. And I think it does give us a lot of technology is good for us to learn from, right? Like around the world, we know so much more about things around the world from it. So yeah, there are large benefits to technology.
Sweet. Now here's like a good time to take a quick commercial break. Let's hear a word from our sponsors.
The Tiberius Show would like to thank one of their dedicated sponsors, Custom Designs Orlando. These These guys are on Mills Avenue and do all sorts of stuff, ranging from photo ID badges, engraved signs, custom braille ADA signs, vinyl lettering to trophies and awards. The cool part about custom designs is they can ship products all over the United States. You can reach them at 407-898-0373 and tell them that
Tiberius
sent you.
And we are back here talking with Heather Wilde. She is a public speaker and owner of the Wilde House of. Now, Heather, we are talking about the benefits of students using technology, but you think there should be some limits, right?
Yes, I think that I don't know if limits is the right word, but you know what? There are so many dangers with technology. Number one, that's just the first thing, is understanding the many layers of danger, and not only that, but scams, and they could be life-threatening. I mean, they could truly change a kid's life if they don't understand that. But not only, over and beyond the safety features, I think we really need to talk about, if students are using tons and tons of technology, because that's what they love to do, what aren't they doing, right? Because we didn't have technology a couple decades ago. I have some daughters that are in their 20s, and I have a daughter that's 9. My daughter's in their 20s. They did a lot more stuff as kids, so when we talk about limits, I'm not saying we need to get rid of technology, but what are you giving up all those hours that you would choose and prefer to be on this computer? What skills might you be missing because you're not exploring and doing the different parts of life? So does that make sense where I'm saying, like, I'm very big on balance.
Okay. Well, what are some of those dangers, if I may ask?
Well, I will even tell you a personal story of, like, on Facebook. Everybody uses Facebook and chatting, and I'm a business. And so when people message me, I have to be willing to chat back, right? And I chatted with someone for an extended period of time, multiple months, before I found out that they were completely a scammer. They were trying to, and I'm a smart entrepreneur, businesswoman who has worked with many different types of students and adults, and I didn't know it.
Wow.
And so it's about those unknowns. Now, do I expect my 9-year-old to be smart enough to figure out what I couldn't? Right? And so those dangers are, all it takes is for someone to think they have a good friend, and all of a sudden there's personal information going out, or you don't know what dangers you're walking into. I think that's very scary. Like that's very scary to me. And I experienced it myself, and that was only like a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you have those same limits for your kids?
You know what? I feel kind of like it's a hard battle. My daughter that is 9 is starting to enjoy it more and more. And not only that, but the people that she is friends with are enjoying it more and more. And so I see that the battle that, I guess I don't like to call it a battle, but to try and convince her that we want balance is getting more difficult. So I think it's something we're all learning, right? Parents and kids are coming from different generations, and we're going to want to treat it differently. But I don't want to fight with my kid or my students every single day. I don't want to do it. Right? And so how do we find that balance so that people aren't pounding their fists on desks?
Mm-hmm. Well, what advice you give to the kids like me that love Discord and Roblox and other games?
I think, my big thing is just so that you're aware. I love that you find things that entertain you or that can stimulate your brain, or maybe you're building things or you're challenged. All of that is good. But I think that kids need to understand there's only certain amounts of skills you can get from that screen. You are losing out on opportunities. And before you know it, you might be 20 some years old, still glued to your screen playing Roblox, not making any money because you don't know how to do those things. So life keeps moving. You're never going to be 12 again. You're never going to be 11 again. And so what if you were someone who wanted to be on technology 5 hours a day? There's a lot of things in life that you didn't see, do, experience to make yourself to become a better, more successful adult.
Okay.
I know that's
Now,
big stuff, but
yeah. Now, just to be fair, what advice would you want to give to the parents listening that have kids that love technology?
I'm sorry. No, I'm just kidding. You know what? I think it's just like the older generations from us. We don't understand because it's not who we are. We see the dangers. We understand the need to still be present. But I think it has to come from, we can't fight either. We cannot have a household where you're the kid and the parent or the teacher and the students are fighting every day over the same thing. Like that isn't progress. And so we have to make sure there is really good communication, right? The kid gets a voice. Like if they love this, they get a voice. The parent gets a voice too, though, because they just really want you to be a well-rounded, healthy kid who isn't going to have a crunch back because they've been staring at their phone for 300 hours. And so I think it's about understanding like there's some, we can't just shut it down. And so you have to keep talking, to keep talking. And the kids have to be open and the parents have to be open to finding something they think is a good answer.
Okay. Well, you are still teaching as a substitute teacher. Well, do you see a difference in how students treat you because you're not their normal teacher?
Well, I don't think they treat me differently necessarily. I like substitute teaching. It's very fun. It's fun to see different classrooms and different types of students. But I can see that what I'm missing is creating those stronger relationships with kids. When you go in and out of a classroom, you might never see a kid again. And so I do miss knowing the students at a deeper level.
I have another question about being a substitute teacher.
Go.
I'm not sure why, but do you know the reason why kids are happier with a substitute teacher? Because I don't.
You're not happier with a sub?
Well, I don't care really if as long as I get taught what's happening. But
Yeah. Well, I think number one, I think students like a little break from normal, right? It always feels good to have a little break. Number two, I think that sometimes, especially as you get older, when you have a substitute or a guest teacher, oftentimes it means it's kind of more of a free day. Like you're going to find out middle school and stuff. Now you're going to start rotating classes. And if your English teacher is not there and you have a sub, they probably might say, okay, today read this, do that. And so a lot of kids like subs when you get older, because it means the day is going to be a little bit less stressful, maybe.
okay.
And I also know plenty of kiddos, though, on the other side from where you are, where they don't like subs. They don't, because they don't know how the classroom works and they don't know how to, and so I know a lot of students that said if they hear a subs coming, they don't even want to go to school.
Yeah.
So I think everybody kind of has their feelings.
Well, do teach your students in class about how to use technology better?
I usually teach them by posing questions. Well, the last few years I've had older kids, so 17, 18, 19-year-olds, so they're adults basically, right? So I don't try and at that point, they a lot of times know more technology than I do because, they use different things. And so it's always just about discovering new ways to use that technology that helps. Like one student couldn't type very quickly and they had to write an essay, right? So together we found the software where they could do voice recognition and they could read their rough draft of their essay and it would type it for them. And that was just us both saying, oh, this makes sense for you. And I've done that with kids that struggle with reading. I always purchase the audio book so that they could listen to it and they're still getting the same stuff, but technology can help us. So those things I'm like, hey, don't say you're not a reader. Would you like it read to you by a cool author? Well, then get an audio book. So those are some of the main ways I've done it.
Wow. Well, what are some of the largest issues that you're seeing affecting students since COVID?
COVID. um, I think we haven't even seen all of the fallout from COVID. I feel very badly for your age. Like it seems like adults are struggling and a lot of people are like coming back, but I think the students were affected the most. A lot of them are a little more antisocial. They're much more content being kind of focused, less social, less friendships, maybe a little more anxiety. I've definitely seen more social anxiety since kids are coming back from COVID. And you know what? I think it has to do with that social media usage or technology usage. I think we didn't know what to do during COVID, and I don't think it mattered your age. We were using technology to survive,
Yeah.
right? Well, then, I mean, we did what we had to do, but now those of you that were younger, because you would have been what, like a fourth grader maybe when COVID was so think of those years for you, and now all of a sudden you're growing up, you were fed technology to survive, and now we're trying to tell you to cut back.
Yeah, I believe I was a third grader when COVID started
Yeah.
because I was mid third grade when we were transferred into online school.
How was
Yeah,
that transfer for you? Was it hard?
very.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I've never done online school before.
Yeah.
So, because I'm a third grader, I barely know anything still.
Yeah. It was hard
Yeah.
for everybody. I agree. And I don't think anybody knew what they were doing, really. We were just faking it to make life look normal.
Yeah. Which, some schools have like that extra mile program where you can like skip a grade, but not the whole grade, where you can just go up a little bit in certain types.
Yeah, sure.
Like for me, I have the math one where I go up about 2 or 3 levels in math.
Okay.
So it was frustrating because I started that when I was in first grade. So I was doing second grade math in first grade. So because I was in third grade, I was doing fourth grade, and I had to sneak onto the fourth grade website in order to get on to the call.
Now, did
It
you
was
really have to,
frustrating.
I mean, sneak is kind of a,
No
you know,
joke. My
yeah.
account, the account never let me on it, but I finally found a way.
Oh, oh, you found a way because you cared about your learning. See,
Mhm.
like you had to sneak on to continue learning during COVID. Oh my goodness. Well, kudos to you for sneaking on the learning experience platform.
Thank you. Well, what's the craziest thing that has happened while you were doing your passion?
Um, well, just working with kids. Let's just say working with kids is what I want to talk about. Um, how about embarrassing? Like not embarrassing for me, but like, wow, this is the craziest thing. It was a COVID story. We were doing the COVID learning and people were
Oh
on
yeah.
camera, right? And one girl was forgot that she was on camera. And so she like stood up from where she was at and walked over her laptop, but she didn't have any pants on. And so that was right. That and me as the teacher with all those other faces, I like pushed a button so fast and like deleted her, like pushed her out of the room. And I was like, if you wonder why you get booted, you have to remember where you are because that was by far one of the little like jaw dropping, oh my gosh, only during COVID would that happen.
Yeah. Well, what's more fun, teaching class or giving speeches?
Oh, you know what? I think it's all pretty freaking cool to try and speak to kids. And so I loved being a teacher and I love speaking now. It's like speaking's my new chapter, right? And so I am happy where I'm heading. I still sub. And so I kind of get to play teacher a little bit without much stress. So I'm really happy to be heading into speaking.
Mm-hmm. Now, you run something called the Wild House of. Well, can you tell me more about that?
Yeah. So yeah, we can't forget the of, right? The of is very important. And so when I had a lot of students that were at risk, oh, you see my doodle walking in the background. That's bonus for you. When I had a lot of students that were really struggling, they came to me for support and sometimes for dinner. like just for some basic needs. And they always called me the Wilde House. Like, it's the Wilde House where you're going to get support, you're going to be loved, you're going to get some of your necessities taken care of. And so when I went to create my business, I put the of at the end because everybody can show up and be accepted in this platform business, and you get whatever you need. So is it the Wilde House of self-awareness, the Wilde House of hope, the Wilde House of support and encouragement or empowerment? So we just like everyone's welcome at the table.
Yeah.
And so that leaves it open. What do you need when you participate in what I offer as a brand? And so that's why, so we fill in the blank. It's like a fill in the blank business title.
I see. So what if I should give to my listeners if they wanted to grow up and be an inspirational speaker?
Well, the first thing is to be a really good speaker is to get something you're passionate about. Because if you just like, well, I want to speak, we have that. That's called teachers. Some are inspirational and some aren't, right? And so find something that you want people to hear. That's a big deal. If you're not passionate about anything, no one's going to want to talk to you, right? And then it's about like developing the skill sets. It's about getting comfortable telling stories in front of people, and then maybe getting comfortable on a mic or getting comfortable telling jokes. It's about being okay with people looking at you and improving your speaking style so that people want to listen to you. So we know there's a lot of people that like to have the camera on them. And so it's about just understanding, find some passionate thing that you want to share, and then start storytelling.
Okay. Well, on that note, let's take a quick break to pay some bills. And we are back here talking with Heather Wilde, who not only is a speaker and a teacher, but she also teaches people how to write their life story. So, Heather, how did you get the idea to help other people share their life story?
Well, it's kind of an easy answer. I shared my own. I wrote, I kind of, you know what, back a few years ago as a teacher, my students knew that I was going through some tough stuff, and I kept saying that I belonged on Dateline, right? And then I realized, well, wait a minute, if I belong on Dateline, then maybe I should write about it because I have a story to tell, right? And being I was an English major, so I just published my memoir this last February. And then right away, a family reached out to me and said, hey, our mom is in the nursing home in hospice care. So she's nearing the end of her life. She's always dreamt of being an author. Would you like to help her? And I didn't really know what that meant. But guess what? Last week, we published her book. So we wrote a second book. And it's just, now I understand how much I love doing that. I love writing with someone to tell their story.
Yeah. Well, does everyone have a good story to tell?
Everybody. Because if you have had a ridiculously boring life, that's newsworthy.
Story.
Right. That's a story. So yeah, like, everybody is like the essence of us, like who we are, the nuts, the bolts, our experiences and our family and all that stuff. Everybody has a story worth telling. Not everybody wants to tell it though, right? Like, that's a personal choice. But if anybody wants me to work with them to write, chronicle the legacy of their life or their family, absolutely we do.
Well, does it cost a lot to write a book?
Well, there's different things to publish a book right now because of technology and Amazon and KDP. You can do it for fairly affordable. It doesn't have to cost that much.
Okay.
I mean, you can choose how good of a cover you want and those types of things. Okay. Now, to hire someone to write the book for you, like myself, that costs you more than a nickel.
Okay.
So, right, because obviously if you're going to have someone write your whole book, right, and I'm a professional writer, and so yes, that costs more money, but to publish a book itself is not that expensive.
Okay, well, what's the hardest part about your work?
Ooh. You want to know the hardest thing? And it has to come back to being a mom. So now that I'm an entrepreneur and I make my own schedule, which is gorgeous, I've got my home office here. I struggle with having summer break, and I have a daughter that I want to, take care of and spend a lot of time with, but there's that work family balance. And now that I work from home, I don't have a classroom anymore, right? And so for me, it's
Yeah.
hard. It's hard to kind of like go sit in an office when your kiddo wants to bake brownies, right? Like
Yeah, it's
it's that.
kind of.
Yeah, so I'm excited for school to start up.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Well, what is the best advice you've ever received, and who gave you that advice?
Oh, you know what? I had a really close friend that once told me I was in a tough situation, and she said, Heather, you can be whoever you want to be. And she was talking because I actually picked my last name. I was struggling with life, and I didn't really have a last name. I needed a new one. And I was so distraught. And she looked at me, she said, you can be whoever you want to be. Pick your own name. I could have chosen Heather Tiberius if I had wanted to. Like, you can change your name. Instead,
Okay.
I picked Heather Wilde. And in that moment, I was like, you're right, I can. And so that was a very important piece of advice from a good friend.
Okay. Well, what was the biggest mistake that you have ever made, and how did it change you as a person?
Biggest mistake. I'm going to give kind of a general answer. And I think, meaning it's broad. It's not like I went and, like started a fire and burnt down my house. I didn't believe in myself through most of my life. And I'm not saying that was up, but I just really didn't take a stand for the things that were important to me. And that led me down a really hard path because I thought that my ideas and feelings weren't as important as someone else's. And so that was a very big life lesson that I had to learn.
Okay. Okay. Now, can you tell me that one story? Remember, this is a kid show, but that one story, well, that you're not supposed to tell me about. Come on, you can tell me.
Okay, how old are you, Tiberius?
12.
Okay. Okay. So this is advice for you when you turn 15. Okay. Because you're going to get your driver's permit. Okay. Right. Because
16.
15, 16 is when you get driver's permit and
Yeah.
license. Right. So about 10 years ago, I was driving down the road by myself and I was going about 60 miles an hour. Right. Pretty fast. And I decided I was hot and to take my hoodie off. Right. The hoodie got stuck while I was driving 60
Oh,
miles an
goodness.
hour. It got stuck. It was stuck on my head.
Oh,
I could
goodness.
not see the
See.
road.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
Oh,
see,
oh, no.
bad.
Oh,
Bad. I have goosebumps right now because I'm lucky I'm not dead. That is my piece of advice for you is to be an attentive driver. Don't take a hoodie off over your head while you're driving. Don't do it. Just say no.
yeah.
Open the window.
Turn
That's
the
all I
AC
got for
on.
you. Yeah, do something, but that was didn't even see the problem that it might prevent. And then once I was stuck, that was the scariest moment of my life.
Jeez. Well, was there anything else that you think my listeners should know about you and what you do?
One thing that just falls into all of this is I teach kids and adults how important art and being creative is, and how that can help us to get to a better place is to, whether it's painting or writing or rock collecting or just being creative. And that's a really big deal. Art therapy is a real dang thing. And quite honestly, it has changed my life for the better just to pull some color crayons out and color.
Huh. Well, do you have a Facebook or website for my listeners to follow you?
I do. On my Facebook, I'm Heather Wilde. You can find me on there. And my website is wildhouseof.com.
Okay. Well, what is that one question that you think I forgot to ask you?
Why do you have so many tattoos?
Well, why do you have so many tattoos?
I used them to make myself feel better for trauma processing. So they all tell a story.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much, Heather, for being my special guest. Well, can you stick around for Math Corners?
Yes, love to.
Okay.
Over 40 years, Lighthouse Central Florida has provided education, independent life skills, and job training to thousands of Central Floridians who live with blindness or any degree of vision loss. Whether it's picking out clothes in the morning or just moving around your community and serving Orange, Seminole, and Osceola counties, contact Lighthouse Central Florida at 407-898-2483 or visit them online at lighthousecfl.org.
Tiberius' favorite subject, it's Math Corners!
And now it's time for Math Corners. Thank you so much, Heather, for helping me with Math Corners. This week, we're going to solve more multi-step word problems. My dad is always good at finding new problems for me to solve. And today, we're going to talk about candy.
Oh, okay. I'm ready.
So, for Joe's birthday party, his parents bought a piñata for $15 and filled it with all of his favorite candies. They bought 4 bags of peanut butter candies for $6 per bag, 3 bags for lollipops for $8 per bag, and 5 bags of sour candies for $6 per bag. So how much did the piñata and the candy cost altogether? Well, first, this is a real world problem because we do know that kids love candy on their birthday. Right?
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so to solve this issue, you first have to figure out how much they spent on each type of candy. So 4 times 6 for the peanut butter candies, and you get $24, and then we do the 3 times 8 for the lollipops, and we get $24 again. And finally, we have the 5 times $6 for the sour candies, and we get $30. Now we have to add them all together. Well, you get 24 plus 24, which is 48. Well, that's easy. Then you have to add the $30, which is the 78. But don't forget, you have to add the piñata, which is costing $15 as well. So you have to add that to the $78, and you get $93 total spent. Now that's a lot of candy.
That's a lot of money for candy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so Heather, did you ever spend almost $100 on candy for your kid?
No.
No, it's only $30, right?
Yeah, like that's $100 for candy. I mean, I'd pay $15 for the piñata. I mean, maybe we could put pencils in it or something, or I don't know, like little thing, like marbles. That could hurt a kid. Never mind.
I mean, then I would lose my marbles.
You would lose your marbles. Oh yes. Okay, never mind. And marbles are probably expensive too. So
Yeah. Well, my teacher said that I would use math every day. How do you use math with your work?
I have to know math. Do you know I care about money, right? And I care about making money, and I care about making sure I don't lose money. And it's so math is in my world every day. I have to use it in order to function as an adult.
And can't forget the credit score.
Can't forget the credit score and how to add for candy.
Well, thanks so much, Heather, for your help with Math Corners.
You're welcome.
And now it's time for the Heart of a Lion. As you know, we talk about the qualities of living by the heart of a lion, which stands for leadership, integrity, obedience, and nobility. Well, this week, we're going to talk about nobility. For me, I think nobility is remembering we are God's special possessions and acting in a noble way, showing courage and honor. The qualities of nobility are goodness, virtue, honor, generosity, and selflessness. So this week, a friend was at work, and one of her coworkers found out that her mother was in the hospital and may not have long left. She was very upset and could not work. Well, worse was that the mother was in Fort Myers, and we were in Florida, and there was no way she would be able to drive there by herself. So all the coworkers got together and came up with the $400 to pay for an Uber to drive her there to see her mother one last time. This was selfless of the coworkers and showed goodness and generosity.
Mm-hmm.
So Heather, did you see or use nobility at all this week?
I think that actually nobility shows up pretty often around me where people are using courage and honoring each other's ideas with the way they communicate, because that's how we can find common ground, right? Is by honoring your opinion and honoring my opinion, but still understanding they can be different. So definitely I've been a part of some conversations that were a little hard. They were hard conversations, but people showed up with nobility so that it didn't have to get stressful.
Okay, well, of all of the Heart of the Lion virtues, which is the one that you see the most?
I think the one that I see the most is nobility. I really admire leadership and good leadership. I think that that's a beautiful skill. But not everybody was put here to be strong leaders. And so nobility is probably the one where I see people wanting what's best for others and being generous at heart that I see quite a bit.
Okay, well, we should always try and be lion strong in everything we do, shouldn't we?
Absolutely. Character education.
And that's our show, folks. I want to thank the one, the only, the amazing Heather Wilde for being on my show. It has been so much fun talking to you today. I think we learned a lot about the Wilde House of and your journey helping students all over the world.
Thank you so much. This was truly a really cool experience. You're one cool human.
No problem. Well, do you mind giving me your social media and website again, by the way?
Absolutely. Heather Wilde on Facebook and wildhouseof.com.
Sweet. Also, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at The Tiberius Show, and I would like to thank WWPR 1490 AM, KINT 98, Soul Radio 24/7, Easy Way TV, and all the other stations that air my show. Please be sure to visit The Tiberius Show on YouTube and hit that subscribe button. Heather, are you subscribed yet?
I absolutely am.
Yes. Oh, and be sure to leave a comment. I answer all the comments myself. Also, be sure to next week on The Tiberius Show with your host, Tiberius Boy.